What if I told you that once in history, 10 days vanished? Not in science fiction, not in a movie, but in the real world we live in. Imagine going to sleep on October 4th and waking up the next morning to October 15th. 10 days wiped clean. 10 days erased forever, as if they never existed. No explanation, no warning, no choice. The year was 1582. Europe was cold. Streets were narrow, stone houses pressed together. The air filled with the smell of burning wood. The world was quiet, unaware that the next sunrise would fracture history forever. Farmers returned from fields, horses rested, and church bells signaled evening prayer. Families gathered around dim candlelight, eating bread and soup. Life was peaceful, ordinary. Nobody knew that this was the last ordinary night the world would ever experience. That night, people slept as usual. Children dreamed. Dogs barked softly in the distance. The moon shone over rooftops. No one suspected time itself was being rewritten. People woke up, stretched their arms, stepped outside, and something was wrong. Terribly wrong. When people looked at the daytime calendars, church records, and official logs, the next day was not October 5th. It was October 15th. 10 days had disappeared overnight. The world froze. Time itself had been amputated. 10 days ripped out like pages torn from a book. Sharp, permanent. Panic erupted instantly. Women cried, children screamed. Priests shouted prayers. People rushed into the streets, desperate and afraid. To them, time was sacred. Time was God's order. Time was life itself. And now, time had been stolen. Rumors spread faster than fire. The world was ending. Demons had stolen the sun. The government was hiding a disaster. The church was punishing humanity. Merchants felt cheated wages and contracts lost. Farmers screamed that their harvest would fail. Some people believed their lives had been shortened by 10 days. The streets turned violent. Stones were thrown at government buildings. Panic drowned reason. An entire continent trembled. It was the first time in history that humanity realized the horrifying truth. Time is not natural. Time is controlled. And whoever controls time controls the world. The truth hidden behind fear and chaos was rooted in power, mathematics, religion, and control. For over 1600 years, the world had followed the Julian calendar. Created by Julius Caesar in 46 BC at first, it seemed perfect. But it wasn't. It miscalculated the solar year by 11 minutes and 14 seconds. A tiny, invisible error. But time never forgives mistakes. Over centuries, the error grew. Events drifted. Seasons shifted. Easter, the most sacred Christian holiday, moved farther and farther from the spring equinox. By 1582, the calendar was 10 days out of sync with the real universe. For the church, this was unacceptable. If Easter was wrong, faith itself looked unstable. If the calendar failed, authority collapsed. So Pope Gregory XIII made a decision. Erase the 10 days, reset time, restore control. He issued a decree, quietly but absolutely. After October 4th, the next day will be October 15th. No discussion, no voting, no consent. It was the most audacious decision in the history of time. But not everyone obeyed. The world split in two scientifically, politically, and religiously. Catholic countries like Italy, Spain, Portugal, and France accepted the change immediately. But Protestant and Orthodox nations refused. Britain, Scotland, Russia, and Greece saw it as more than just numbers. It was a threat, a conspiracy, a silent invasion. Britain rejected the change for 170 years. Russia held out until 1918, after the revolution, and had to erase 13 days overnight. In 1752, when the change finally reached Britain and the American colonies, 11 days disappeared at once. People filled the streets again, shouting, "Give us back our 11 days." They believed their lives had been shortened. Workers demanded 11 days of lost wages. Families insisted their dead relatives were cheated of their rightful time on Earth. Some even believed that babies born in the missing days were cursed, their souls erased before birth. Time had become a battlefield of war between science and belief, power and freedom, truth and fear. The official explanation was scientific, but beneath the surface lies a disturbing question. If 10 days can be erased once, what stops it from happening again? Who decides what time is? Who controls the calendar? Who decides how long we live? What if history has been edited more than once? What if more time has been erased without our knowledge? Maybe the real mystery is not the 10 days that vanished, but the truth we were never meant to discover. The world had just witnessed the impossible erasure of 10 days from existence. But what happened next would reveal a far more dangerous truth. The manipulation of time was not an accident. It became a weapon. And once the door to changing time was opened, would never again be closed. After the chaos that followed 1582, governments and rulers realized something unsettling. People believed time was natural, divine, eternal. But it wasn't. It could be edited, rewritten, controlled. To control time meant controlling history. And to control history meant controlling the future. Across Europe, kings and queens debated in silent chambers. Their decisions carried more weight than armies. Because armies conquered land, but time conquered minds. Time became the invisible weapon of power. For the next 300 years, nations fought not on battlefields alone, but on calendars. A war of dates, months, days, and systems. A quiet war hidden from common eyes. The world split into two calendars. One was the Gregorian calendar, used by Catholic powers, representing science and religious authority. The other was the Julian calendar, used by Protestant and Orthodox powers, a symbol of resistance and independence. It was not just a calendar, it was a declaration of loyalty. To adopt the Gregorian calendar meant to submit to the authority that created it. Accepting the new calendar was seen as surrender. Rejecting it was rebellion. The calendar became a weapon of identity, and every day people checked the date. They were reminded, time belongs to someone, but not to you. As centuries passed, the difference between the two calendars grew wider. The Julian calendar continued drifting. It wasn't 10 days anymore, but 11 days, then 12, then 13. A world living under two different versions of time. Imagine two neighboring villages separated by only a river yet. One says today is March 10th, and the other says it's March 23rd. Marriages were confused. Business was destroyed. Treaties were broken. Battles were even triggered because armies marched according to different clocks. Time itself became a battlefielding invisible war with real bloody consequences. By 1752, Britain could no longer survive the chaos. Trade was collapsing. Navigation was impossible. Communication was broken. So the British government issued an order. After September 2nd, the next day will be September 14th. 11 days were erased. The streets erupted. Workers demanded 11 days of extra wages, believing the government had stolen part of their lives. Rumors exploded. Time was being taken to shorten lifespans. The king was stealing years to live longer. The calendar change was a secret tax trick. Angry citizens stormed Parliament, shouting, "Give us back our 11 days." People truly believed they had lost time that belonged to them, and in a way, they had. Time was proof of existence. And now, existence was negotiable. But the most shocking event would come much later, in 1918 during the Russian Revolution. The old Russian Empire collapsed. A new government emerged from flames and blood. And their first act was not rebuilding schools, hospitals, or homes. It was rewriting time. They declared January 31st, 1918 will be followed by February 14th, 1918. 13 days gone. Not slowly, not quietly. Instantly, millions of people woke up and realized the calendar had jumped ahead like time had leaped forward without them. Days disappeared. Birthdays disappeared. Anniversaries and deaths disappeared. Even history books had to rewrite their pages, changed forever. Battles moved. Events shifted. Reality was rearranged. If history changes its calendar, does history itself change? While the public screamed and governments fought, a quieter conflict was unfolding behind locked doors. The war of scientists, astronomers, mathematicians, philosophers, secret councils, all obsessed with one terrifying question: who gets the right to define time? Because controlling time meant controlling agriculture and the food supply, navigation and military power, trade and currency, religion and belief systems, even human psychology and memory. Time was no longer a measurement, it was control. And it still is. There is a moment in history few people speak about when this calendar conflict nearly triggered global catastrophe. In the early 20th century, the United States, Britain, Russia, Japan, and Europe were all operating under different time standards. Miscommunication between clocks, delayed messages by hours or even days. A warning of an attack could be misread. A military order sent too late. A train of troops could arrive after a battle was already lost. Commanders feared one single mistake could ignite a world war. Behind closed doors, military leaders met to discuss a chilling scenario. What if calendar differences caused a misunderstanding that started a global conflict? They all agreed the world must unify time more. It would collapse. And so the modern time system we know today was created. Global time zones, the International Dateline, and Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC. It's a structure so perfect, so rigid, that it hides the terrifying truth beneath it. Time is no longer natural. Time is engineered. Time is manufactured. Governments realized something even deeper than science. Humans are controlled by time psychologically. We are programmed to wake up when told, work when told, and rest when told. We believe in a system because the clock dictates our lives. Control time and you control human behavior. Change the calendar and you change reality. The most powerful prison is the one you don't even see. People think they are free, but they live inside a cage built from seconds, minutes, and hours controlled by those who decide what time is. The disappearance of 10 days was not the first time reality was rewritten. Ancient civilizations manipulated time to our moving days, adding months and altering histories. The ancient Egyptians added extra festival days to maintain political power. The Mayans reset their calendars to align with cosmic cycles. Roman emperors renamed months to immortalize themselves: July for Julius Caesar, August for Augustus. During the French Revolution, an entirely new calendar was invented, the French Republican calendar, which divided weeks into 10 days instead of 7, in an attempt to erase religion from daily life. Every time a calendar changed, society changed. History is not a record of what happened. It is a record of what someone decided to remember. So if 10 days could vanish, if 11 days could vanish, and if 13 days could vanish, how much more has been erased without our knowledge? Are there missing years in our history? Are there events hidden behind rewritten dates? Is our past re-lore? Has it been edited? Some historians whisper about strange ideas, like the phantom time hypothesis, which claims 297 years of the Middle Ages never actually existed. They talk about lost civilizations whose timelines were erased, or empires that rewrote history to hide their failures and crimes. When time can be edited, truth becomes a choice. The real question is not why 10 days vanished, but whether it can happen again. In a world where governments controlled digital clocks, where time zones shift to benefit economies, where leap seconds are added or removed, where technology can rewrite information instantly, and where AI can alter history in seconds. Is it impossible, or is it already happening? What if one day you go to sleep on January 1st and wake up on January 20th? What if months disappear to control elections? What if years disappear to erase evidence of something? What if entire decades are rewritten? Time is not a law. Time is a decision. The 10 days that vanished were not just numbers on a calendar. They were a message, a warning from history. Those who control time control reality. And in a world built on time, what happens when time itself is rewritten?